Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of VMTV Vaults with myself, Kyle Dimond, and my guest for this episode, Mr. Harry Hardwick. In case you missed it, we interviewed Harry's brother George a couple of weeks ago. Both of them recently fought on the Cage Warriors trilogy and produced two great performances. So we've been catching back up with them. Like I said, if you missed George's interview from a couple of weeks back, you can check that out on the channel right now, because this one follows on from it in some ways. Anyway, with Harry, we took a big diversion talking about a fight he had in Croatia. I'm just going to let that unfold and explain itself, because it is quite the story. We also talked about a lot about him and his brother, obviously, and the infamous "Get This Man a Pizza" line, which we talked about with George. I wanted to get Harry's side of the story as well. Both of them, like I said, it looked incredible on the Cage Warriors trilogy. Can't wait to see them fight again on Cage Warriors. They are two of the most exciting and entertaining fighters right now in UK MMA. There's nothing like them. If the Diaz brothers were from Borough, need I say more? Without further ado, Mr. Harry Hardwick. Where to start? I guess we should start with your recent performance on the Cage Warriors trilogy. How was that process like of going into Cage Warriors, in terms of preparing for the trilogy, signing with them? What was that period of time like?
It's pretty like standard practice now. Fought on like everything from tiny little shows to Bellator to fighting in my opponent's gym in Croatia. So it's kind of just normal now. Like none of it was there was nothing like, ooh, this is different. It was just, right. It is what it is. It's what I do. It's how I live.
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to rewind to the Croatia story. Tell me this Croatia story.
My fight before Cage Warriors in April was It was just a short notice fight in Croatia. I had 3 weeks to prepare for it. Literally, I was just scrolling through Facebook and I seen Carl Prince put a thing asking, for some fighters, and there's 66 Europe only. The opponent's record's 8-2. So I just messaged Pete with a screenshot of it, like, should we jump on this? But yeah, I ended up fighting one of the American top team Zagreb guys in American top team Zagreb in Croatia. But it was just a good experience. Like I kind of thought we'd get treated worse because going into the opponent's backyard and all this kind of stuff. But no, they were like proper sound. Very chilled out country, just generally. Like the atmosphere you get, all sort of the vibe you get from a lot of people is just, yeah, it's good. Yeah, like they're just a shoulder. Like even the security at the airport to let us into the country during a pandemic where there's all these regulations, he kind of just looked, why are you here? Sport? Okay. And just like shrugged his shoulders and sent us on our way into his country. So we're like, all right, that's something different. But yeah, ended up getting, that's probably still my career best performance. It was just all around good crack, other than the journey home, because it's almost like our country's made the regulations regarding travel deliberately confusing to leech money out of you. Because we got into the airport in Croatia, and then she was like, you won't be allowed in the UK without a CPR test, QPR test, or whatever it is. I'm like, what? The one you got to get into Croatia is invalid to get back into the UK. And we're like, so we bought a lateral flow test in the airport in Croatia to just get out of the Croatian airport, not having no idea if that would be able to get us back into the UK. And then when we were hanging about in Amsterdam airport, we get to the gate, and then they were like, oh yeah, you've got to fill in this form. And then this form that took like half an hour to fill out, and we had to book tests for like 2 and 8 days, do isolation. And then we didn't know if the test we got in the Croatia airport was the kind of test that would let us back into the UK. And to be honest, I don't think it was. I think it was just that it wasn't government officials from our country that had to like
Mm.
check the paperwork and everything to let you on the plane. It was just some poor bastards who worked for the Dutch airlines who were just probably not asked about it at all.
Mm.
But I was like shitting myself, like literally trembling as I handed over this paper, thinking that the test wouldn't be valid and I wouldn't be let back to my own country. And then just, yeah, it's okay. And then just sent me on my way. And then Pete nearly missed the flight because me and George managed to get into the queue a bit earlier, but I don't know. Pete was just asking about, but then he didn't end up getting on the flight. We're like, oh fuck, Pete missed the flight home. We was like head in our hands and all this kind of stuff, waiting on the plane. And then the takeoff gets delayed, and literally half the passengers on the plane come on late with Pete because it was just no one had any idea what was going on, and yeah, it was just generally a very stressful and horrible time. But the Croatia trip itself was mint.
That's quite ironic that it was just getting back into England that's the difficult part. You would think that would be the easy part, I suppose.
No, it was probably one of the most stressful days because I was, all the time we were in the airport and that, I hadn't slept in about 40 hours by this point. I couldn't get to sleep after my fight, and I was a bit hungover, and all I had to eat was chocolate. Since after, from the fight to getting to the airport, all I'd consumed was chocolate and beer. So like my body was in a pretty rough state as it was, and then there was all this, and it felt like someone was like drilling stuff in my head, having to fill the form out. It was awful.
I don't know where to go from that. After the amount of fighters I've interviewed where, because of the pandemic, you have to talk about inactivity, and so many fighters I've talked to were involved in this thing with Bellator, where a lot of them have left because they wanted to fight more and Bellator just couldn't offer them that, and all those kind of things. Meanwhile, you're accepting fights on Facebook and then flying to Croatia to fight in a gym. Like, that is one of the craziest stories I've heard this year.
That's the only option. That was the only option. That was it was either that or don't fight, and we just jumped on it. And in reality, like on paper, it was a terrible fight for me as well. Like, up to that point, my only losses in professional combat sports, one professional loss in kickboxing and 3 in MMA. There were the common threads. They're either short notice or against people who used to be from the weight class above with a sort of smothering, grappling heavy style. And then also, so the third one, I'd never flown home as a winner before from an international fight. And that fight had all 3. It was a short notice fight. The guy had many fights at lightweight with a smothering, grappling heavy style, and it was in another country. Everything about it was stupid, but it was like, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have fought. And then it was the most confident I've been going into a fight. It was the best performance I've had. I think we, got all the 3 issues there sussed pretty much. But yeah, I'm one of the few people in the UK MMA scene in a COVID year who's not signed to the UFC who can say I'm 2-0 this year. Like it's July and I'm 2-0. That's no one else. There's not many people who've got that in UK MMA at the minute.
No, not at all. That is absolutely crazy. I mean, like, I was just going to talk about the Ndoye fight and your performance and what you thought of it, but then I'd seen that fight on your record and thought, oh, he's had another fight this year. That's strange. I don't really know what that's about, but I mean, I couldn't have predicted that. So, what did you think about your performance in the Ndoye fight? I'm curious to know, because you thought that the one in Croatia was your career best to date, but like you said, 2-0 this year is very impressive, like you said, considering people haven't been able to get any fights. But yeah, what did you think about it?
I mean, there's things that I did wrong in the Croatia fight that I definitely fixed. In the Croatia fight, the few right hands I threw were like I was in some kebab shop somewhere. Like, they were really not the prettiest of right hands, whereas I managed to hurt Ndoye with right hands. It's a tough one because lots of stuff in the Ndoye fight went really well. And then there was some stuff where it was just like, that just came out and I was like, that's fucking magic. Like, the first spin, I threw my first spinning technique and it was mid combination off a missed high kick. And I was like, that's mint that. just stuff where like at the time, even at the time, you think that was cool, that. But then also, I did get sat on my ass. The fight was closer than it should have been, really. Problems with pacing myself. So I'll give myself a 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5.
Right.
I don't know if I have to put a number on it.
Yeah, I mean, like I just said, to be 2-0 in this year is the main thing, and to get that debut win there back with Cage Warriors is impressive, and Doy's a very good opponent as well. So I was obviously very impressed, and when I spoke to George, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and we were just talking about how you both were like big talking points of the card, like over all 3 of the cards. And the thing that I asked him about straight away, because I had to, I think is what most people are going to ask him about straight away for at least another year, is the Get This Man a Pizza line, because I can't remember ever seeing anything like it before. So I had to get the explanation for it. I'm just curious to know what your side of the story is.
Well, because I watched your interview with George, just in case any like these things cropped up. But yeah, we were sat. We had the pizza didn't even have cheese on it. It was literally just a load of salty starch, which is at that time, if you got a dietitian to look at like, oh, what you've got a performance tomorrow and you've just come from such a compromised, dehydrated state, that would be ideal. That would be ideal nutrition. His team walked past you here and go, nutritious. And then when he comes back, George didn't get this element of it. He was very like creepy and sort of like almost like a kid trying to fit in and be with the popular kids, like, oh, look at me. But he sort of like sticks his head in between us. You having pizza, lads? Yeah. And then George was like, do you want a slice? He was like, no, looks rank. And then walked off like, look how funny I am. Pretty like douchey behavior. But one thing George forgot to mention is afterwards, like this was ages after it, Pete comes back into our locker room and is like, did you call Dean Truman and Dan Hardy out for me? We're like, and George was like, no. And I was like, oh, they just said George offered me out from it. We're like, what are you doing? I'm retired. And we sat and thought, did one of them think George said Pete instead of pizza? Did Dan Hardy or someone think? So we had to go like find Dan Hardy and like, look. Pete's retired. We said pizza, not Pete, sir. Pizza.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that is a very weird turn in the story.
Yeah, it was very strange. We were just like, did that happen? That's weird. I don't know if it's like the Middlesbrough accent's hard to understand or what, or if it's just, lots of things are hard to understand when George is just yelling stuff and then dancing and then tripping Mark Goddard up with his splits. Did anyone else notice that?
I did, yeah. I think I saw it on Twitter afterwards. Yeah.
He does the splits and nearly trips Mark Goddard over. Oh, just a fun day all around.
Yeah. As if the Get This Man a Pizza part wasn't confusing enough to most people, it also got taken as a call out, so which I didn't see coming. So it never ends.
It's like if Cage Warriors is a big it's a big platform, but say if that was at like UFC level, imagine the memes. Oh. Imagine the amount of memeage that would come from that.
Ridiculous. That's like what I mean. I can't remember anything like it where like one phrase has been on my mind for the whole next day. Like, what does that mean? Where does that come from?
It's like, I don't know, me and George, like George did that, and then in the Croatia fight, my opponent was called his nickname was the Croatian Cowboy. So the moment I finished that, I got up and did like a gunslinger thing. I see my ripped red chili pepper shirt, but I got up, pow pow, and then like blew the smoke out of it. And then loads of people were just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like my mate sent a video of his like live reaction to the thing, to me finishing it, and he's like went from being elated to what a nonce. Straight away. And like loads of people just baffled by it. And then the same with the pizza thing. And I'm like, we're doing celebrations specific to the opponent and specific to stuff that's happened. If that goes over your head, then so be it.
Yeah. I mean, it adds another talking point. Like, not only was the performance from George very impressive, but that part was like, well now, because I don't like asking the generic, like, I always call it the Joe Rogan question of, did anything surprise you in the fight? But when you say, get this man a pizza right after it, well, I've got to go to that. Like, there's nothing else
Yeah,
more
well, did
important
anything
than
surprise you? Like, you surprised the audience at that point.
Exactly. I was gonna ask what can we expect from you going forward for, like, how long do you expect to be in Cage Warriors and stuff? But I feel like the answer that I want to hear you've already said, which is more celebrations. I think that's what everyone wants.
Probably going to be, it's looking hella likely that we're going to stick around with Cage Warriors. Looking like we'll be getting on the trilogy. Yeah, just keep scrapping people. I'll probably keep getting these ridiculously hard fights thrown my way because that's just what happens with me. Like, it's really annoying. I'd have loved to have had at least 1 or 2 fights against Cans now, like just some proper stress-free experiences, but it's not going to happen. Like this year, I've fought twice. I went into this year with a 5-3 record, and the 2 fights I've had are against an 8-2 guy and a 9-2 guy. Like, what have I done to deserve this? But we'll deal with that. It's just one of those things. But yeah, I'll keep fighting. Keep doing some terrible celebrations and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Sounds good, mate. I look forward to it. So that's everything that I had to say. So congratulations again to you and George. Oh, go ahead.
Shout out to Dwayne Pitt, the laziest, worst engineer in the world, right? If your bosses found out how shit you were, you'd be sacked immediately. There we go.
Okay. Well, so we didn't get a celebration, but we got a call out. I'd say that's close enough. At least this call out was on purpose. So there's that.
Yeah, true. I accidentally called out Ngannou before. After the Croatia fight, I was like dead excited, and then I sort of like said that'd be a hard fight for anyone in the world, even Ngannou. And I noticed a load of people laughing, and I was like sniggering to myself, like, what have I just done? But, I'll just make it a recurring theme. I'll call him out after every fight. George said the game plan for that fight would be lace the gloves with peanut butter and hope that he's got a peanut allergy. Or else you just fuck.
It might be the only way. It might be.
That's just a little window into George's mind, though. That, yeah, there's definitely some darkness inside of him there.
Well, I love that insight. I'm gonna have to speak to him before his next fight instead of after, so I make sure I know the game plan going in, just in case there's anything crazy in there.
Well, hopefully neither of us will be fighting Ngannou.
I mean, with your run of tough fights, who knows? Who knows?
Oh, it'll probably happen. It'll just be like, oh yeah, Ngannou and Dana White have fell out over the whole interim thing. So now Ngannou's fighting Cage Warriors at featherweight. And you're like,
why not?
It's you who is fighting. And I'm like, oh, okay, then fuck it.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
And the next trilogy is around my birthday, so that's the kind of like, it would be the kind of thing that would happen.
I don't know whether even that would top the Croatia story. That would be a tough one. But yeah, I appreciate the time, man. Thank you, and again, congratulations to you and your brother. Both great performances, and can't wait to see you back in there for the next trilogy.
Thank you very much.
Right. Sweet. Cheers, mate. Thanks.
See you later.
Catch you again soon, bro. Laters. Thank you for watching this interview with Mr. Harry Hardwick. Harry's most recent fight was on the Cage Warriors trilogy. You can check that out on UFC Fight Pass. You can also check out our interview with his brother George from a couple of weeks back. Both great, both guaranteed entertainment every time, whether it's in cage ability, whether it's a call out afterwards, a celebration afterwards, or an interview. They're must-watch TV. So show some love to the Hardwick brothers. Also subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any episodes of VMTV Vaults. and new episodes of The Violent Mike out every Friday at 8. Until the next one, goodbye.